As the second tallest bird in the world, you may think raising emus would be a near impossible feat. But these birds have plenty of advantages that come with raising them and can be an enjoyable addition to your farmstead. In this episode, Kymara Lonergan of the American Emu Association talks with us about the benefits of keeping emus on your property. This is Mother Earth News. We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Brinsea. That's BRINSEA, Chick Incubation Specialists. They've been focusing on egg incubator design continuously since 1976, resulting in a wide range of egg incubators, chick brooders, and incubation accessories. They offer unparalleled practicality, reliability, superior hatch rates, and healthy chicks. Innovation you can trust.
Good day, everyone, and we appreciate you for joining us on another exciting Mother Earth News and Friends podcast. I am Kenny Coogan, and joining me today is Kymara Lonergan, the Vice President and Regional Director of the American Emu Association. At Mother Earth News for 50 years and counting, we have been dedicated to conserving our planet's natural resources while helping you conserve your financial resources. Today, we are going to learn about raising emus and why you would want to. Kymara Lonergan is the owner of the Thunder Horse Hollow Farm, which is located in the Hudson Valley in New York State. She has a lifelong passion for emu and sustainable farming. With a belief that education is empowerment, Kamara is teaching emu farming and product development classes. She has developed emu oil-based and vegan farm-to-bath products and cultivates herbs, flowers, and extremely hot peppers. She is the Vice President and Regional Director of the American Emu Association. Welcome to the podcast, Kymara.
Thank you. I'm really excited about this. This is such a great opportunity, and I love emu. There is nothing more that I love to do than talk about emus, so you found the right person for the right job.
Wonderful. We're excited, and we've asked our Mother Earth News social media fans if they have questions, so we're going to start off with a few of those. And the first one is from Diane Muriel, and they say, not to be rude, but what is the point of raising emus? What do they accomplish on the farm that is better done by them than chickens, ducks, or geese? We have poultry on pasture, and we just don't get the hype about emus. So,
Wow.
Kamara, what are you thinking?
That's a great question, and I'm glad that this question was asked. Emu are amazing animals for agriculture. First of all, they are low impact on your land. So they're soft-footed, and they do not ruin the land as much as other animals would, other types of livestock. Their digestive system is very elementary. So their food that they consume does not sit in their intestine for long, and it gets passed out rather quickly, does not accumulate ammonia, and can be used immediately for fertilizer, whereas chicken eggs and other types of poultry, you have to age the fertilizer, the feces for fertilizer. Emu are used for meat and oil. Once emu are about 2 to 3 years old, if you want to process them, you can use the fat through the processing for emu oil, which is very valuable on the cosmetic market. And the meat is extremely desirable by folks who are afflicted with the AlphaGal allergy, because it's theoretically the only red meat that these people can eat without having an allergic reaction. 98% of the emu is usable, so there's very little waste in processing emu. Even the bones are used for jewelry and art. The eggs are used for art as well, the shells. But The eggs are equal to 8 to 12 chicken eggs. So you can get a tremendous amount of egg nutrition out of one emu egg.
All right, so I want to ask you about the AlphaGal allergy. So can you just talk a little bit more about that?
Well, the AlphaGal allergy is the result of an autoimmune reaction to the Lone Star tick bite. Now, I'm not a physician and I can't really give you a lot of medical information about it, but there's many AlphaGal support groups in the world. But one of the things that happens is that when people are afflicted with this, they have a tremendously bad reaction to red mammalian meat. Emu meat is considered a red meat, and it is very low in fat, by the way, which is awesome. But it is the only red meat that so far they have found that people with AlphaGal allergy do not have a tremendous reaction to, and there's a great demand for emu meat from that community. That tick used to be found mostly in the south, and it's migrating north. So it won't be long before it is up in New York State, Maine, etc.
Winifred Hollingsworth writes, "We raise emus on our farm, absolutely love them. Their meat is lean and delicious, and it takes spices and flavoring very well." And then Joanne Hagman writes, "I tried to help a group of farmers break into the commercial meat mainstream in the early 90s. The grant I wrote was not funded, and the commercial viability of emu meat was not embraced. I have not seen it yet. The meat is lean and far more healthy than beef." So what you're saying is that people are more into the meat now than the 90s. Is that just because of marketing? Is it from the AlphaGal allergy? Is it because people are more curious when they're, more excited to try different things?
Well, in the 90s, that was, there actually was a market for emu meat and emu products and emu oil-based cosmetics and bath products. So I think honestly, since that time, though, in addition to the AlphaGal allergy, people are becoming a little bit more global with what they are looking to consume in their diet. I do believe that the AlphaGal allergy has had a higher impact, but I will tell you something that's really important. And what's super important about emu farming is that in our country, in the United States, and probably all over the world, of course, farmland is shrinking. It's really shrinking to development. And because of that, emu are a very, very good addition to your livestock inventory because they can be raised on relatively small area. And as I said, lower impact to the land. And that is another reason why emu are coming into the news more and being more recognized. And an addendum to this with the grant reference. Now the USDA will, in fact, right now there's a value added grant that's available, and farmers can write for that grant. Emu are considered in that grant as part of the package. And so, yes, this is going to bring more notice to the emu industry. It's a different time than the 90s. We're moving on into the emu future. And I want to say something as well, and I want to stress this. Emu are livestock. They are considered livestock by the USDA. They are considered livestock by New York State Ag and Markets. So it's just the same as having livestock on your farm. And when you say, well, I don't know, the hype about them, or, it's up to you to create your own hype about marketing your farm and your product.
So when figuring out if you can add emu to your homestead, you're saying that emus are livestock and not exotic animals, and
They are not. Exactly. They are not exotic animals. We just went through a little bit of a scare here in New York State where a bill was being proposed to include emu and ostrich as exotic animals that can't be owned. And I jumped right on that. And the senator was really quite receptive to learning about how emu are beneficial to homesteading, and they struck it from the bill. So it's really important that people realize emu are livestock. There's a huge pet hype about emus as pets. Unless you have the right space, which equates to a farm, right? A farm space, emu aren't really the best pets in the world.
So we have a question about regenerative farming and kind of about space. So for the listeners, I want to remind them that sustainable agriculture is trying to maintain systems without degrading them, whereas regenerative farming applies management techniques to restore the system to improve productivity. So regenerative farming usually includes things like creating a soil armor by allowing plant litter to accumulate, adding plant and animal diversity, having plants and roots group continually, and integrating livestock to disperse seeds and fertilize the fields and minimize soil disturbances. So with that background, Kamara, Melhacker78 says, how about regenerative farming with emu? Do emus graze? Do they fertilize as they graze? And do they disperse seeds? And can you integrate them with other livestock?
So emu are grazers, and they need to graze. They are fed, pelleted feed. But, and I will use my farm as an example, my emu have about a half an acre. I have two here to graze, and they are not only consuming and spreading seeds, but they are fertilizing the land. The thing with emu is that if you silvopasture farming is so necessary these days, and so they are perfect for silvopasture farming. They are grazing amongst the trees. They are just so beneficial. They're very low impact on the land, and they're like a bird fertilizer to your land. They're such a benefit to the farm. As far as integrating with other animals, now there are many farmers that have emu and pigs and chickens and rabbits running around. And I will tell you, I'm a bit old school. My family they raised game birds up in the Berkshires a long time ago. And I had it drummed into my head not to commingle species because of disease. And right now there is a problem in the United States with high pathogen avian influenza. So this virus is so contagious that it can be spread when the vet comes to see your horses. It could be on the shoes of the vet. You can't simply just spray bleach on the shoes to get rid of the virus. It's very tenacious. So we keep the emu up the hill and we keep the horses down the hill. And I don't let my dog in with them because, of course, he's rolling all over the place and he can bring in bird droppings to my emu. So I personally, and I've been successful with this, and my family was too, we do not commingle our animals, but it is a trend amongst people to do that. And that's the choice that people have to make.
Do emu pull up the roots of grasses as they eat, or do they just eat the top part?
Sometimes they do. If you plant a delicious flower, they will eat it, but they will spread it. So sometimes they do. And one of the things I try to do with mine is I will plant things that slowly grow in the spring. So it just is sort of natural to their environment, and it's not something new that they will peck. But even if they do, of course, they generally will spread the plant if it's spreadable. They are fence walkers, so they will walk along the fence line, and that is an area of high traffic. But of course, life isn't utopia.
This Mother Earth News podcast fan, their name is Unicorns Are My Power Animal. And they write, they write, emus are terrifying. Once you've stood next to one, you'll never question whether birds are descended from dinosaurs. Now, Kamara, I studied abroad in Australia, and I remember vividly visiting an emu farm that had many, many rolling acres, and the farmer did a call or he shook like a feed container, and I remember about 50 to 75 emus come running over the hills towards us, and it was very enchanting. So, Kamara, how large do emus get, and should we be scared of them?
Okay, emu can be up to 100, over 100 pounds. There's several different ways, several different very highly respected farms here in the United States. One of them, and I talked to each one before this podcast. So one of them is Amaru Hills, and he's amazing. He's a meat and oil farmer, and he's all business. He says, no, you should never be interacting with your emu, and they are raised to a certain point for financial sustainability, and they're processed, and we don't deal with that. There's other people who have their breeder pairs that are lifelong emu living on their farm, and they do interact with their breeder pairs. My farm, I have a background in anthropology and archaeology, so I'm a kind of a observer of things before I'm interacting with them, and those two are my study birds. So I handled and studied them constantly, and I will tell you what happens in my observation one-on-one with emu. And I live close. They're maybe, I'm going to tell you, they're 20 feet off of my bedroom window. So I am that much of a student of an emu, right? There are certain times of the year when hormonally the males are more docile than the females because they raise the young and they sit the eggs. But there are times, especially when they're considered teenagers, like before they're 2, that they will test you, and they'll get a little hissy, and they'll want to sort of protect their environment, or what they might get a toy and consider it to be an egg that they're sitting on, or whatever the case may be. It's just like a horse. You have to establish your ground, and you have to use common sense. You don't stand in front of an emu because they kick forward. And it's the same with a horse. They're going to rear and kick forward, so you stand to the side. Yeah, they look terrifying to people. I have people that come by here because they can see my emu from the gate, and they say, they're going to put your eye out, and of course, they have a big beak and they look like dinosaurs, but the truth is they're quite intelligent. And like any animal, if they see you're afraid or you start flailing and running, of course they're going to, come up to you and scare the heck out of you. The females can be a little more aggressive, and those, I wouldn't want to study them as closely, and I would keep them more like Amaru Hills does, at arm's length, and they're definitely for the purpose of breeding and laying eggs. But they're not horrifying, honestly.
Yeah, looking at their face, they're beautiful. So a precaution to take when working around them is don't stand in front of them because they can kick. Is that the most dangerous part, and not so much the beak?
I'm going to tell you some things that I've learned, and I think other farmers, because most of the farmers, they're over 55 in this country. That seems to be the median age. So here's one thing that happened to me. I had cataract surgery, and when you have your cataract lens in, they shine, and the emu are attracted to shiny things. So if you have that type of surgery to your eyes, you really should wear some goggles or glasses, because they are.
You're making me nervous, Kamara.
No. You don't want, or earrings. You don't want to wear earrings, necklace, so that they would pull it. But of course, parrots will do the same thing. You have to use common sense. You don't want to put your face up against an emu.
It's not a cute silky chicken. This is a very large bird.
It's a large bird to be respected.
Yeah. And real quick question, how long do emus live if we're not culling them for meat?
They can live, much to my son's horror, they can live to be 30 to 50 years old if properly cared for in captivity.
And what size fence is adequate for an adult emu, and how much acreage should we be giving to each emu?
Ideally, for your peace of mind and your safety, keep your emus contained. Your fence should be at least 6 foot high, and if your land allows it, where we are, it's a lot of rock. Try to get it 6 foot deep into the ground so that they can't push against it and knock it over. And you want your fence to be of a meshy link, but small enough so they can't put their head through, because that could be a terrible accident, and small enough so that predators cannot get through. And that is also including the digging underneath. My two are perfectly happy on a half an acre. If you're raising emu for profit, you can get about 10 emu into less than a half an acre, because they're not really hanging around there forever. You're going to process them by 2 years, but they still need room to move around. So you can get them in quite a small enough area where you can get a bunch of them that it would be profitable to keep them. They do have to have at least a 3-sided shelter, because high wind and rain are the enemy of the emu, besides certain predators. So their feathers are not oil covered like a duck would be. And if they get wet and windy, they get wet to the skin, and that's when you could have a problem.
We usually say that for raising chickens and ducks, you should have like 3 to 5 individuals so they are in a little flock and they feel comfortable. What about emu? What's like the minimum number that somebody should be raising?
You should never have an emu alone. They need to have a buddy. I have 2 males at this time. To really homestead and to raise emu, to have anything profitable, you've got to have at least, in my opinion, 4 breeder pairs. That's your minimum. But you've got to be able to have a way to separate your birds. You can't just throw them all in together. So you have to separate your birds, because you don't know if they're always going to get along, if there's going to be a thunderstorm and they're going to think each one of them is causing it. Sometimes they will peck at ticks or something on each other, and that will cause continuous pecking, and that could lead to some real physical damage for the birds. So you always need to be able to separate them, and you need to be able to separate the females from the males, because you want your females to deposit the eggs and your males to be sitting on them so you can take your eggs out or hatch them.
We've kind of mentioned this a few times about raising emu as a profitable business. So what does that entail? We got the birds, and then I know we can sell their meat, but are people buying their feathers? Or I've seen people decorate their eggs, but like, how do we make it profitable?
The profit for emu right now, the profit for emu is in the oil. So you have to process your emu at the right time so that you've got enough fat and enough meat to make money from your bird. Your feathers you can sell too. I mean, the feathers are used for all kinds of things, from art projects to buffing out scratches on cars and on these roller brushes. But honestly, the profit is in the meat and in the oil. Now, with what I do, I have other ways of making money from emu, and that's something that homesteaders need to look at as well. And that carries through to all your animals on your farm.
And you are a no-kill farmer, or at least in regards to emu. So how are you benefiting financially from owning them?
So I'm a no-kill farmer just because that's what I just never had it in me to eat stuff that I raise. And my family did, and my grandmother would just pick up a chicken and that would be it. But I just can't. I didn't inherit that ability. And what I do is I've made my emu the farm ambassadors. But that being said, they've become local celebrities, and I matched them up with a musician who has been extremely supportive of my business. And he is a drummer. He's Prairie Prince from the Tubes, and he tours with Todd Rundgren, and he's an artist. So he's done all of my labeling, and his name on the art has helped to promote my birds, obviously, of course, too. And all of my bath products have something to do with an animal on my farm. So I'm marketing my birds through my products, but I am using oil in some of them from other farmers. So I'm supporting other emu farmers, but I'm making money by selling my products through my birds, if that makes sense.
And how do you get the emu oil? I know you were talking about like rendering the meat. Can you not separate the oil from the meat and just have a fatty steak, or it just naturally separates?
So one of our farmers who has been processing emu forever, he says no fat, no meat, no money. And that's true. So you can't separate the fat from the meat. In fact, when you are processing your birds, you want to do it at a time when the meat and the fat are about 45 pounds total. Okay, so that's when they're about 2 to 3 years old. And the way you can kind of tell how that fat is, the old school way is to lay your hands on your birds and run along the line of the back, and you can kind of feel where the fat is. And that's the old school way. But basically, like a big farm like Amaru Hills, they're looking at a certain period of time when, boom, they all must be processed at a certain weight and 2 to 3 years old.
At Home Beauty asks, what are the benefits of emu oil in body care products?
Emu oil, it's very transdermal. So it is not going to clog your pores like other creams and types of products. It is a great carrier oil. So your herbs and various other ingredients that are in the emu oil will pass on to the skin in a faster way. It is refined to the point of what would be considered food grade, although it is not food grade yet. There hasn't been enough research out yet. And the refineries take a lot of care into purifying the oil. As a perfume carrier oil, it's really one of the best you can use. And as a adjunct to other oils, such as, hemp oil or CBD oil, it also helps to move those properties onto the skin.
All right, I want to go back about 20 minutes when you were talking about caring for the emu, and you talked about the high pathogen avian influenza. So we got to talk about raising them healthy and safely. I know you mentioned like foot bath sanitizer, things like that, or, foot baths. So is there any other things that we should be doing to keep the emu healthy in regards to avian influenza? Because it's kind of a pandemic right now with that around the world.
So this is how I have been coping. And I know a lot of farmers out there that are listening to Mother Earth or fans of Mother Earth News. They're small farmers like me, and they don't know what to do. It's a very mysterious and scary situation. You can look at the USDA site and suddenly it's in your county and there's so many ducks or chickens euthanized. I did two things. Because my family had been so adamant about spreading disease, they were part of that polio generation, I said to myself when I set the farm up, I've got to find a way to keep these birds covered, even though they're big, even though they're known to not want to be in a shelter. So I bought this Shelter Logic kind of garage thing that you would put a car in. And I hooked it up to what we call a cottage. The cottage is plastic and it's big. It's like a person could live in this cottage, but it's easy to wash down. And we have rubber mats, and I use a lot of straw, like wheat straw in there, rye straw, wheat straw. I make sure water can't run underneath because it can, and that's one way that the bird virus is spread. It lives in this cool water when your wild birds pass manure into the environment. And the birds have enough room to be in there and covered. I go on Birdcast, which is from Cornell University, and I look at high migration times. And if I see that they're migrating, we're in the Atlantic flyway. If I see that there are high migration times, those birds are in there and they can honk all they want. They're in there with their food. I keep their water fresh and I'm supplementing. They happen to love parsley, so I give them their greens. They have insects come in there that they're pecking at. And that's how I've been coping. I keep their food covered and I clean the area that they are in during the day. I make sure as much as I can that there's no wild bird feces in there. There's no large water body. Although we are near the Hudson River, I don't have a giant pond and have them hanging out with ducks and such. They are in their own environment. We no longer have off-site workers coming in here. I just don't allow it in their area. They're in a very distinct place now. I have them in when the geese start to once again move around here, which is around sunset. So they don't come out at all until after dawn and they're in before sunset. They eat a balanced diet. We are very, very fortunate here in New York and in the New England area to have pool and grain ratite. I call it emu chow. It's a very, very balanced diet. So I don't have to mess around just physiologically with what they're eating. And it's kept them super healthy. And I really am very vigilant about any kind of nasal discharge, eye discharge, strange behavior on their part. These are the things that I've done to cope. I change my clothing. I don't wear the same clothes with the horses as I do with the emu because, you know, the horses are out rolling around in the mud and that dust taking off a horse sheet, whatever, it's coming on me. In the cooler months of the year, that virus is more spreadable, although they have found that this year it has not gone away like it would have expected to be. So in the cooler months of the year, I do keep them under the cover of that tent more. In the hot months of the summer, that heat is what that virus does not like. So we pray for the sun and for the warm earth to kind of calm things down, but it is always a threat. We don't know enough about it right now. There is no vaccine for it. There is one allegedly being developed in Europe, but the USDA does not have a vaccine that is readily available for it right now. But here's the good news. There is a veterinarian in Colorado who has been vigilantly researching this. And his opinion is that ratites may not be as susceptible as chickens or other animals. And that doesn't mean that you have to be Mr. Farmer Devil May Care. It means that maybe we have a good chance with our emu and our ostrich. And maybe we'll find a way that our emu will evolve to not be susceptible to this virus as much as other birds. So you gotta keep your shoes clean. You should just wear a dedicated pair of shoes into your emu area. Go on the USDA Defend the Flock website, your local extension service and farm service agency. They'll have plenty of information. This veterinarian, and I'm gonna look, he is from Colorado and he has an excellent blog. It's nelsonroadvet.com. He has so much information about emu. It's unbelievable. Besides
Perfect.
the American Emu Association.
Yeah. So we're going to link all that, including the Defend the Flock with that information and then the biosecurity measures. And then also, of course, feeding them the proper nutritious diet, they should be good to go. All right, we're going to take a quick break in our conversation to hear a word from our sponsor. And when we return, we will learn all about emu eggs and raising emu chicks.
Emu products are designed to be long-lasting and energy efficient. Their advanced series incubators and brooders feature the latest state-of-the-art digital control systems, providing instant readings of temperature and humidity to ensure successful hatches and healthy chicks. Check out Brincy incubators and more at www.brincy, that's BRINSEA.com. And now, back to our conversation with Kamara.
We are back with Kymara Lonergan, the Vice President and Regional Director of the American Emu Association. Now, when I think of emus, I think of those gorgeous gray, teal, and emerald green eggs. How many eggs does an emu lay? And are they seasonal layers?
Yes, they are seasonal layers, and they will lay, well, they start to breed in the end of October, and they will lay until February, around February. And the female will lay 20 to 40 eggs. So it depends, like how amorous she is and how hot the male is to her. But they lay about every 3 days. Their eggs are equivalent to 1 dozen chicken eggs. So that's pretty cool. And they're higher in selenium and other vitamins.
Are they easy to incorporate into recipes? Because I just tasted my first guinea eggs like a week ago, and I got 3 dozen guinea eggs, and I offered them to lots of people. And we were all wondering, do any eggs taste different? Because if I didn't tell these people that they were guinea eggs, they would have just assumed they were chicken eggs. And I also have ducks, and I just feel like all eggs taste the same. So is that true for emu eggs?
Well, emu eggs are a little bit oilier. However, they have a good rich taste. It's not an offensive taste. Like there's some eggs, like maybe pheasant eggs or something, that have a more nutty taste. But emu eggs, they don't, and we all know as farmers that our free range chicken eggs taste a lot different than what we're going to get on the shelf somewhere that's been hanging around, So most farmers, our eggs are very fresh, and emu eggs are a little bit oilier, so you have to sort of adjust your recipe. The American Emu Association and the Emu Today and Tomorrow magazine does have an emu cookbook. So there are recipes and information for how to use eggs in cooking on the websites.
When starting an emu flock, is it better to start with eggs, chicks, or adult birds?
Most people start with eggs, and they want to hatch their eggs.
My next question is, do you suggest new emu owners to raise the chicks themselves or get a brooder? I know you're saying that they do usually get the eggs, but is it recommended?
If I was a person starting a farm, a homestead farm, you should get yourself a breeder pair and have your emu laying eggs. That's your choice. That, or get your eggs and don't let your male emu hatch the eggs. You don't want to do that. You want to get a decent incubator and hatch your chicks in the incubator, and that's the way to really start.
And if the dad is raising them, how long does he care for them?
It's about 8 months. I believe it's about 8 months, but you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that, because if the male raises the chicks, now you've got a problem, because the chicks are not going to be habituated to people. It could be a problem in a small homestead. You want to keep them separated, and sell your chicks, sell your eggs, and you don't want to do that. That's a fairly idealistic. It's not a good idea.
And you mentioned earlier that there's a formulated pellet for adult ratites. What about the chicks? What are we feeding the baby emus?
Emu feed is a big subject in the world. And what I decided to do was go to the source where people are really in my area. There's other information in the West, Northwest, etc. Right here where I am, in my experience, I called the Pool and Grain people and I said, all right, I'm going to do a Mother Earth thing. Don't make a fool of me. I need to know what do you recommend? Because you people have scientists working for you. What do you recommend about feeding chicks? And this is what they told me. They said, as soon as the chicks are hatched, offer them the grain. Don't give them cracked corn, because only cracked corn is a treat, but the grain has all the nutrients in it. That formulation goes through the entire life cycle of the bird. So once they start eating that grain, as long as they have an ability to supplement with their grass and insects and the occasional frog or snake, which we won't go there right now, but they will get the proper nutrition, and their pelleted grain has 23% protein, because protein is a big problem with emu. If they have too much protein, they can grow too quickly, and it's not good for their legs or their mobility. It could lead to a lot of health problems for them.
So we were talking about predators earlier. So I can imagine there's going to be a lot of predators for a little baby emu chick. So we're just going to assume that listeners know that they need to protect the chicks.
Yeah, don't just be throwing them out there. You can't. They have to get to a certain age, like maybe 2 to 3 weeks. You start putting them outside a little bit and let them get used to. They have to run because they need to strengthen their legs. But the thing is, when they're chicks, if they're like, you have a open space and it's like the plains, right? Those hawks will come down and take them. I mean, I have these, I don't know what they are, circling my emu all the time. They like have a knife and a fork in a bib on, looking at my emu, but they're too big now, so they can't touch them. They just fantasize. But there's other predators, and one of the big problems I face are fishers, also known as fisher cats. I mean, they'll come and eat the babies. They'll be gone. You have to keep them inside. I had them in my basement.
This is like a 20 to 30 pound wild cat, right?
No, it's like a weasel thing, and
even smaller.
It is the only predator of the porcupine. So the fishers are lethal to your animals, even your chickens. They will confound a porcupine, roll it over, gut it, and they will hunt out a whole area and just drag their prey into a tree and come back and eat it later. So they hunt in about 3-mile radius, and your smaller animals like your emu chicks and your chickens are not safe. And of course, raccoons will, they'll pull a head off a chicken. I mean, they are a problem, and they're also a problem. Their scat is a problem for emu, which we can talk about later. Once emu get to a certain point, though, of course, they have claws, and you could have a wild cat, not a big cat out west, but a bobcat here. So if that comes wandering into the emu area, it's going to be like, whoa, that thing, I don't have a chance, and off it's going to go. My emu are very vocal, so if I'm sleeping and I hear them grunting, I know something's out there. They're like my watchbirds. And also, as far as predators go, there are livestock guardian dogs that you can raise with your emu, and they will defend your emu to the death. Now, what I did was I got a cattle dog, and that was a terrible mistake, because all he wants to do is herd the emus. So the emus harass him and he harasses them. So don't do that. But there are livestock guardian dogs that will protect your emu.
Well, if you go to Countryside, which is under Mother Earth News, I wrote an article on livestock guardian dogs that you can read. I didn't mention emus, though. Okay, so for the adult emu, when we were talking about the fencing, you did mention you don't want to have predators going underneath the fence. So, I mean, obviously there's bears and bobcats, but coyotes, foxes, are we concerned about those
Yeah.
medium-sized predators?
So my area, there's a chain link fence around where my birds are, but then there is the dog, and then there's another chain link fence. So they have to come through two barriers. And I thought of that because when we had our game bird farm, we always had two barriers for our pheasants and quail and such. So I always like to have an extra, if you can afford it, of course, an extra area. But that extra area you can use to also isolate your birds if you need to separate them. That's another thing. Yeah, you do have to worry about coyote, wolves, coy dog. And I'm not going to lie to people, there is a risk, even though those birds can kick and even though they're strong, right? There's always a risk in farming with predators.
And can you follow up with that raccoon scat? Why is that a health hazard?
So raccoon scat, there is a bacteria, it's a bacteria that is in the feces, and it will live for 12 years in the dirt. Now, emu peck at everything. They peck, 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 peck. And if they find feces, they're going to eat it. And that scat, that organism goes into the spinal cord and up to the brain and will kill the bird. However, we've had a member who has treated an active case of that brain worm infection with ivermectin Coron cattle wormer, and she has placed a nickel-sized spot on the back of the emu neck, and that emu has survived that infection, but it still has some neurological problems. The best way to avoid this is to worm your emu every month. I was told to use Panacure syringe in the mouth. The problem is that the tracheal opening is very prominent and very close there. So the emu can aspirate that and you'll kill him, right? I stopped doing that and I bought a big old honking container of Panacure and I'm just putting it on their neck. And some people do put it in the water. And the emu may reject the water at first, but after a while they will drink it within the water. But that's one of the big threats for emu.
And we want to remind listeners that if they're using medicine or prescription off species or off breed, to consult your vet.
Always consult your vet.
Yes. All right. The last question is, what kind of environments can the emu handle? So I'm assuming we want to raise them in an environment similar to what they're, found in, but are there minimum temperatures or maximum temperatures that we need to worry about? I know you mentioned the wind and the rain and the thunderstorms kind of put them off.
So some farmers, some of the real old school farmers, they're not in business anymore, but there was one up in Vermont. And they talk about how they leave the emu out 24/7 and they lay in the snow and they become an igloo and the snow insulates them, which makes sense, right? And their emu are fine. But honestly, emu can't walk on ice. So here where I am in New York State, which is near the Catskills too, we get so much ice in the winter. And I'm out there chipping ice. I look like Popeye after a while, but they just cannot walk on that ice. I wouldn't invest in a commodity or into something that I wanted to make money off of and chance that they could splay a leg. So ice is bad. Slippery surfaces are bad. When it's icy, I found I use a lot of the ashes from the wood stove. Boy, does that work. That's amazing. But the thing is, emu are adaptable. So we live in sort of a hilly, mountainy kind of area. There's people in Colorado that have them on the top of a mountain. They've all done fine with them. Mine are adapting really well to here. One of the things about environment that I'm experiencing that is hard on my birds are the midges that come out. They're like these little tiny gnats, and they tend to really eat away at their eyes. I have contacted my vet, and he's given me an antibiotic ointment for this, and it does help. And I do put emu oil around them to keep these flies away. And ticks, they do, because they lay with their neck out, so ticks will come and find a home there. So I look for them. The other thing about the environment is if you are in a place that is mosquito ridden, and it doesn't even matter anywhere, you have to contact your vet, and you have to get information about vaccinating them for East and West Nile virus, because that will kill, in my opinion, it'll kill them. So it's the same like a horse. They have to be vaccinated in the spring and in the fall. After 6 months is when they start.
Kamara, where can listeners learn more about the American Emu Association?
You would go on the website aea-emu.org, and there is tons of information on there, an incredible amount of information. And if people become members, then they get access to even more information. And there is also a magazine that kind of works hand in hand with the AEA. It's called Emu Today and Tomorrow. And you can subscribe to that, and there's plenty of information in there. And there's something important I have to say. When I talk about emu to people, there are people that have chicks that'll put out a leg. They'll get a splay leg. Most of the time when that happens, I want to put the reality out there and get that message out there to people. That bird is not going to be saved. Don't have surgery on it. Don't make a sling for it. It's done. You can't fix it. It's sad, but that's what happens. So it's very important that your emu are on a non-skid surface. You have to be very conscious of what they're walking on. That's really important, people. Please.
All right, you've heard it here. So thank you so much, Kamara, for speaking with us. Our conversation on raising emus was very interesting and enlightening.
Thank you. I am so pleased and so happy that you guys invited us to get the word out and to get education out about emu.
Thank you. And we thank you, the listener, for joining our podcast and encourage you to share it with your friends, colleagues, and family. To listen to more podcasts and to learn more, visit our website, motherearthnews.com. You can also follow our social media platforms from that link and ask future podcast questions. And remember, no matter how brown your thumb is, you can always cultivate kindness.
You've just listened to our episode about raising emus. You can reach us at letters@motherearthnews.com with any comments or suggestions. Our podcast production team includes Jessica Mitchell, John Moore, and Kenny Coogan. Music for this episode is Travel Light by Jason Shaw. This Mother Earth News and Friends podcast is a production of Ogden Publications. Learn more about us at motherearthnews.com. Thanks again to Brinsea, our sponsor for this Mother Earth News and Friends podcast. You too can experience the Brinsea difference and maximize your hatch rates with Brinsea incubators that precisely monitor temperature and humidity and are made of antimicrobial materials. Brinsea ships worldwide and provides stellar customer support to answer all your questions. Hatch your chicks with Brinsea, the leader in innovative incubation research. Learn more at www.brinsea, that's BRINSEA.com. Until next time, don't forget to love your mother.